And we live.
Hey,
All right.
everybody, to another show of Keeping It 100. How you guys doing?
All right, how you
Doing
doing?
good, doing good. No complaints at all.
All
Huh?
right.
No need to complain at all.
No, I'm not complaining. I've had a good week. I'm waiting
Okay.
in because Houston, we have a very special event to go to this weekend,
Oh yeah, no doubt. No doubt.
and we're going to the Creativerse conference. So Friday night is the meet and greet, correct?
Yes, yes.
And it's what is the exact location?
So what now?
What is the exact location?
It is going to be at the Red Hat headquarters, which is in downtown Raleigh area,
Mm-hmm.
and we're actually having a meet and greet on the rooftop.
Yes.
Oh, that's nice. That's
On the
nice.
rooftop. Now I'm trying to figure out the whole time we've been talking about this for the last 3 or 4 or 5 weeks. Tobias, why did we not mention it to you about coming?
I have no idea.
I mean, I'm sitting there thinking the
I
whole right there, it hit me. I was like, we didn't even mention it to him. I know we've been talking about it, but we never even mentioned it.
I think he wasn't at the last two shows, right?
Yeah, I wasn't at the last two shows. I was I had COVID, came around, and so I had been, going through a healing process to make sure that I was, up to par and all that. But
Gotcha.
I'm really good now. I mean, I'm really good. So, but no, I didn't know about that. But
Okay, okay.
yeah.
We
But it
got
sounds
some
like it's going
other
to be a good time anyway. So
yeah, no doubt, no
yeah,
doubt. We got some other big things coming along as well. So
Yeah.
we're gonna have you included in it.
We
Hopefully we'll get you to kind of maybe help out with some interviews and stuff like that since you've been helping out
yes,
with the show so much.
sounds good.
now
All right.
we do have the meet and greet Friday night. Starts at what time?
The meet and greet, I've got to be there to set up everything. Me and John are gonna be there around 2.
Okay.
So as soon as you can get there, Ursula, it'd be great. I think the actual event starts at 5.
Okay. Yeah, well, I'll be there way before then.
Okay, okay.
So
I need to look at it because I've been talking about it so much. I cannot tell you for sure exactly what time it starts.
Hmm.
I I will get there a little shortly after you and John.
Okay.
And I think I'm gonna Uber down there because I don't want to have to park anywhere.
Mm-hmm.
And Saturday starts at what time?
Saturday morning starts at 9 a.m.
9 a.m. and ends at what time?
Um, the last part may be around 2. They're gonna break for lunch, maybe I think at 12 till 1:30. And then the last speaker, which is the head guy, he may be speaking from 1:30 to like 2:30.
Okay. Yeah, because
Yeah.
unfortunately I was like, I hated to miss the very ending, but if it
Right.
does between 2 and 2:30, I'm good. My daughter has an award ceremony
Okay.
at 3 o'clock on Saturday, which
Okay.
kind
Okay.
of off.
Well,
But that's
hopefully you can stick around long enough so we can all go to lunch.
oh yeah, I'll be there the whole day.
Okay.
I'll just
Gotcha.
it just depends on what time we completely finish.
Yeah.
I'm
And
that
and at the end, you will have gotten enough information by the end that even if you don't stay to the very end, it's all
mhm.
good.
Yeah, because I'm gonna probably leave about 2:15, 2:30, so I can get back here, get her, and get over to this award ceremony before 3 at the school.
That sounds good.
Okay.
No worries, no worries. That sounds good.
Forward to the event. It is ridiculous. I'm like, cannot wait.
Yeah. Believe it, I mean, you're actually going to be able to get a chance. And a lot of people we don't know, but if you go do the research and look at some of these guys are getting paid 15,000, 20,000 to do speaking engagements each and every weekend somewhere.
Wow.
And they're coming to Raleigh off the strength of Elton Benjamin and what he's trying to do in this area. So they normally get about 20, 25 grand each, and you got 5 different people. That's over $100,000 worth of money, that they're missing out on just doing different events. But
Yeah.
they're coming because they wanted other people to understand about, growing their business, podcast, you know,
But
understanding different things. So
you said it, Houston. You like people literally give away make money giving away information.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Because
Because
everybody,
once you get people interested in what you're talking about, then they start getting in contact with you to find out more information.
yeah, once they speak at this event this weekend, their
Mhm.
followers gonna, they're gonna gain all the followers just from people that came to the event.
Oh yeah, oh yeah, exactly,
But
exactly.
other than that, what you guys got going on this weekend?
I think that's gonna be it for me.
Well, shout out to the Conley Vikings. Their reunion is
Yeah,
in.
yeah, it is. It's this weekend.
Yes, starts on Friday.
One of our classmates hit me up, and I have to make sure that I send out information to the Vikings that I know, let them know about this weekend. Now, I went to last year's.
Uh-huh.
Okay, I went to last year's at about the same time. It was a Memorial. I think it was a Memorial Day weekend. As a matter of fact, I went, and there was only one person from my graduating class and one person from the class two below me, one above me, and then the rest were from like now I graduated in '89, so the ones that came were like from like late '90s, early 2000s and stuff like that, and I'm like, oh man.
Well, of course, it kind of it conflicted with the conference this weekend. So I'm like, there's gonna be another conference, another reunion. I'm
Yeah,
gonna have
yeah.
in October. I cannot miss this conference. But there is the gold and blue to I think it's Saturday
There's a
night.
cruise go right. Is that the cruise?
No, no,
You
no, no.
said there's
The golden blue at the is it what's it called 1311 now? The Old Max,
Oh, Max got a new name.
right?
It's
Everybody
still
calls it Old
it's still gonna be called the Max.
exactly, but it's
pretty much the max.
it's from 10 to
The
2.
max.
It's gold. It's the blue and gold.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, that's the one that
so I'll be
let-
there at that one, but I
so
won't
they
be.
got one coming up on the in October, the in October also, right?
That's the cruise. Yeah, that's the cruise.
Okay, but the blue and gold is this weekend.
Yeah, 10 o'clock
Yeah.
p.m.
Right,
That's,
right, right.
yep. So
Yeah.
I'll be
At
at that.
at the max.
Wow.
What they
Yeah,
call it now, man? It's something else now. I
oh,
can't think.
11 or something like that.
Yeah, something 11 or something. Yeah.
Yeah.
I call it drinks are too high, So he be playing games, man. Drinks would be one price, and then about a half hour later, they jacked. I'm like, wait a minute, I just paid this much for this. Like, yeah, you got me that first
They
time.
got coming in. The more people that's coming in, the more I think the more the price is gonna go up. So,
Yeah,
Wow.
yeah,
but yeah,
that's capitalism at its best.
right. And so, but now, again, for anybody who's watching who is interested in going on the cruise, we still do have cabins available. Hit me up on social media. We have balconies, ocean view, and interior. Hint, hint, Houston and Maurice.
Mhm. Yeah, I hear you.
I hear you. I'm gonna be right here.
I
Houston, we
think I'll be in
set
Vegas
up,
at that time.
set up the Incite-tv background and do all kind of interviews, all kind of stuff on the cruise.
That's true.
Yeah, yeah.
That
Or we
is
could,
true.
or we
All
could stream from where we're at. One of the two. Either way, we could find a way to get there.
yeah, I'm just like we could do so much.
Hmm.
Uh-huh.
I'm serious. Okay, but you know what? I'm gonna leave it alone
There you go.
tonight. But
Tonight. There you go.
but before we get into our topic tonight, um, now I know you guys probably don't follow,
Mhm.
but the whole beat. Cat Williams literally opened up a can, what you call a Pandora's box
Yeah.
for this year. It's like now nobody gets along. You have Kendrick
Yeah.
and Rick Ross against Drake. You have Chris against Quavo. Now you have Shaq against Shannon Sharp. Jaguar Wright against everybody.
Hmm.
So I'm like, what is going on in Hollywood? Because
Something that needed to happen. It was
what
something that needed to happen.
and this is like it's like a two-edged sword because it needed anything that's covered up needs to be exposed.
Yeah.
Okay, I truly admit that. But
Yeah.
other than that, these
Now, does
little
it really? Some stuff just need to stay in the dark.
No, no. Something none of it
Some
needs to
stuff
stay in
just
the
need to
dark.
stay in the dark and
No,
keep
none
and
of it.
keep
Look,
and keep
let me
yourself
tell you.
straight.
Let me tell you, Houston, none of it
Ask
needs to
for
stay in the dark.
forgiveness and talk to the Lord and keep it moving.
No, no, none of it
Exactly
needs to
what the
stay in the
problem is.
dark
I
because
think
the
that
horrible thing is what if you try to get when you're trying to get into the business and because what was left out there in the dark, you find yourself in that darkness with those cockroaches. Then you're
what,
gonna be like, wait a minute, I wish I had known.
no,
So no, you don't. It didn't need to stay in the dark.
it's something dealing with somebody doing something to somebody or hurting somebody or abusing someone. Okay, I get that. But stuff like Jada Pinkett and Will Smith, we don't need to know all that stuff in that information. It has nothing to do with us.
What part?
It's just gossip. It's just their personal life turning to a movie in real life. So I think that's irrelevant. Now, if there's casting couch kind of talk and you have producers who are abusing kids and things like that, then yeah,
Right.
my daughter wants to be a part of the Hollywood scene and she
Yeah,
wants to go to auditions. I need to know that information because she can't work with that person.
right.
So I get that part. But this
Hence
Hmm.
the reason why you need to know, based off of that, the reason why you need to know about Jada Jada and Will, because you got to understand these guys are characters. Okay, their names are characters. It's just like Charleston White to me is better than Cat Williams because he tells it all straight
Hmm.
up to the point, and he makes it clear the people that most people anyway have been say treating like heroes like Tupac Shakur. You find that these guys are not heroes. There's nothing, they weren't special in the positive realm. They were negative uh, people and caused more problems than what most people are trying to say help. These guys didn't help anything. So yeah, you
Hmm.
need to have these informations about these stars so that way you can do a better job. Now, the people that they're not really paying attention to and not talking about, but they always bringing out negative aspects of them is like Tyler Perry. To me, he's a positive brother. Okay, his background proves the point. You look at Oprah Winfrey. Yeah, people talk junk about her, but look at her history and look at where she is now. Her background, everything, it proves the point. Whereas you look at people that aren't anywhere, who are even dead now, but for some reason are being glorified. Well, it
well,
proves the point
well,
that
I
they're not,
you're
who's who and what's what.
mixing the point up with I don't consider Tupac or Biggie heroes.
Right, right.
I think that they were geniuses in their craft.
Mm-hmm.
I think they were highly talented in their craft,
Right,
Hmm.
but their life did not emulate anything that I would want my kids to follow.
right, right.
You know, now Tyler Perry, of course, he's as much people talk about him wearing a dress, doing this, doing that. You have to give him credit for one, where he is on his strength alone.
Yes,
Like I mean, I get people helping him, the actresses or whatever that was, but
yeah,
his genius, the way he formulated his plan of success, falls directly on him.
yes,
And I think he's earned every dollar that he has.
yes.
So has Oprah. She went from the big heavyweight uh talk show host that people were like sorry because Ed Stedman wouldn't marry her at the time because she needed to lose weight.
Yeah.
Where she is now, you know,
And Stedman still ain't gonna marry her.
and he's irrelevant now.
It
Yeah,
don't matter. He didn't marry her
it
then.
don't
He's
matter.
not gonna marry her now.
Smart
He
man.
It don't matter. It being
He's smart.
irrelevant.
Yeah,
It was his choice. I mean,
he
that
got.
was just his thing. It was
Yeah,
irrelevant in the '90s. She was loaded with money then.
yeah.
yeah,
You know, so it doesn't make sense to say you're not gonna marry somebody for their weight, but you still stick with them for 15 years.
right.
You won't go marry her even if she was a size 6.
Thank you.
Ain't
And that's a
nothing.
strange thing because you're saying 15 years. It's been longer than that.
Yeah, but I always use numbers that I know. I can't remember
Yeah,
if it's been 20 or longer.
she what 30 years now? Who
Right,
who who's with anyone that long and not get
right.
married?
I don't
Well,
know.
there's
Before wait before marriages before marriages were legal, it was just even now they just have common law marriages or just people
Well,
that just reside with each other for
but you're talking about.
from
I mean, I understand that, but that was a choice between both parties. It wasn't that they. A lot of people did the common law marriage. One, they couldn't afford to get married because they would lose their benefits or whatever and things like that. But
well, he's talking about
No,
way before then.
no,
He's talking about
marriages
way
wasn't
before then.
even a thing. It wasn't a legal thing back then. You got to
yeah,
understand, marriages came about after Charlemagne. Okay, and after the French king Charlemagne, that's when your marriages come along. Okay, whereas
but
now it's legal and it's owned by the government and the state. But prior to that, it wasn't really a big thing. Even the Romans had their common law marriages, but they also had certain marriages where people were joined together in certain um, for titles and stuff like that. But the only thing about marriage is a business. It's about money. It's
well,
about economics. It's not about love.
I get that. But we're talking about as far as they're concerned,
Yeah,
the
well, he's a smart man. Okay, for him not to marry her and just enjoy his time with her, good. And she should have been just as happy with it, which I think she is, because they still together, but they not married. So I think it's a good thing that they have enjoyed these years together without having to legally bind themselves. I mean, to me, legally binding yourself in a marriage doesn't make any sense. When you got one party that's trying to play the other, it doesn't make any sense.
okay. Wait. You can't wait. You can't down marriage because of some people.
I can
Because
down marriage based
some
off of
very
I can down marriage based on what I think, and I think that marriage, in my opinion, is a waste of time for folks that are not doing it for the right reasons. Now, if you going into marriage for economical purposes, okay, all the power to you. You got my support and vote. But if you saying you doing this for love, okay, and you're not worried about any of the other stuff after the fact, well then you're messing up, and then when you have children, you bringing them into that crap. So the thing about it is you need to make sure that if you're getting married, that you got all your A's, B's, and C's down to the Z's taken care of. I don't look at it from a religious standpoint, because even then in the Bible, it was economical. It had nothing to do with, oh, I love you. It was economics, and it had to do with building a certain type of
Well, I mean,
family wealth.
it has nothing to do with love in a lot of countries on this planet.
It exactly.
India, China, a whole bunch of these places, people get married not because of love. They're getting married because of sometimes it's because of family, joining families together.
Yep.
They have an understanding of what they want to do. Indian marriages, they're planned out for their kids before they ever come together.
Yeah. You look
And,
at
and
Prince Charles. King Charles didn't want to marry Diana. He wanted
right,
to marry the other the huh?
Priscilla, or well, I think
Yeah,
it's
he wanted
Priscilla.
to marry her. He didn't want to marry Diana. Diana was in love with the whole idea of being a princess and everything. And then she had a thing for Charles. But you got to look at it like this. Look at how that turned. That was a complete disaster. You know what I'm saying? But in the end, Charles ended up with the woman that he loved.
Mhm.
I mean, I give you one more thing,
so
before we
that's the
move on. But
then
I got
why
to say this.
why is love important? Because
I want to
he
say this one more thing though. If you think about it, King Charles's uh, uh, grandfather, King Charles's grandfather became the king because his older brother abdicated the throne because he was in love with a woman, and the Church of England did not want him. We're telling him, well, if you're gonna be the king, you can't marry her because she's a divorcee from the U.S. and you can't do that. He said, but I love her. We don't care. So he gave up the throne to his little brother for that. You look at all the craziness that comes uh, 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 with marriage. You need to have your priorities straight, because we're not talking about something that's you're not even supposed to be thinking about divorce when you get married. But unfortunately, it's even in the when you go to church and you actually say these rules in front of the priest, you have to give an account for that. And Marvin Gaye said what? He said, when you say that honor, love, and obey to death do you part and all, he says, you're really lying. He says, and you ended up lying to God, because when you break up and get divorced, that means you lied to your God. So I don't get down with marriages unless we're absolutely positively sure. And if you're sure and you've weighed out everything you could possibly weigh out, but realizing that it's economical and business, not about love.
I think it does concern love. It does concern finances. So not really understanding how love is not a part of it.
I don't think it's a part of it at all. I think it's more
we make it a part of it, but
feelings,
it doesn't
emotional. I think it's
necessarily.
feelings and emotions. I think it's more feelings and emotions more than love, because you love your parents. You can love ice cream, but you're not married to it. You can love a car, but you're not married to it. You can love your mom and dad and your children. You're not married to them. So I don't think that marriage has anything
In
to
a
do with
object,
love.
talking about a human being.
I just said your parents, your grandparents, your children, and you're not married to them. You're only married to this guy or
First
this
of all,
woman.
I love my parents. I'm not
Right.
in love with my parents.
You're not in love with your parents?
No, I said I love my parents.
Yeah.
I'm not in love with my parents. I think
Why are you not in love with your
there's two different
parents?
things.
What
Because
tell me explain the difference.
I consider being in love with someone, that's someone who I am sexually attracted to, emotionally attached to, physically attracted to. That's a whole different aspect. I love my children, but I was
Okay.
in love with my husband.
Now, here's the deal with that.
Sounds like in love is worse than love.
Well, here's the problem with that. You said that you call in love is someone that you're attracted to, someone you find sexually attracted to.
That I want to be with,
Um,
not because you can be attracted to anybody.
right. That's what I'm saying. So you can't say that that's the definition of love.
But I married him because one, we had a relationship. We built a foundation. It was about honesty and trust and loyalty. And that's what it was supposed to be built on.
Mm-hmm.
He was attracted to me. I was attracted to him,
Mm-hmm.
sexually, emotionally, physically, the whole nine. I was in love with him.
Right.
Now, even when, like, there's not a boyfriend that I have that I don't still have love for. I still love them. I'm not in love with them anymore. They're not
So you
in that.
can't fall in love. So you can be in love with several different people, but not married.
I
No,
think that
I don't
I
think
think saying in love is the wrong the word
what
used. I think it should be infatuation. You're infatuated with an individual, with someone that you're having sex with. I don't think it's in love, because you don't need the end for that. Um,
let me infatuation. I have been infatuated with a lot of people
uh-huh.
because I thought they were so fun and they were this and they were that.
Hmm.
But it was just that. It
Hmm.
was nothing that made me want them every single day to share a bed, to share a family, to share a home with. It was just infatuation.
Well, how do you know? You didn't know whether or not you want to spend a home with your husband. What about other people you didn't know whether or not you had to spend a home or you want to have a economic relationship with other folks. I mean, how do you know this? You know, here comes this guy, and all of a sudden, what is there some magic that
There was
makes you
no,
say,
no, it was no all of a sudden. There's no all of,
uh-huh,
I we developed a relationship. It went from he's this and he's that, and I think he's a good looking guy, and
mhm,
we got to know each other on a whole different level, and we
yeah.
felt each other then. But it
Well,
just,
when you,
oh my God,
what would be cool is one of these days that you give a, that you do a whole segment, okay, on that relationship up until now and everything, so that we can have an understanding as to, you know, how your relationship is. That, you know, and that is why I guess I brought up this one about, you know, or asked about the hate, you know, your parent, your mother, you know, why men hate their mothers. Why are there some men that hate their mothers? And who are these men that hate their mothers, you know? And come up with, you know, a segment where you can tell the story about how you became what you say in love, where most people are saying infatuation with your significant other now. That would be a good show because I'm, you know, uh,
There.
she's not, I can't hear her. She's still talking. I can't hear her. I can't hear you, man.
I
There you
I
go.
would I would not share my relationship unless
Uh-huh.
the other party would be willing to share his part.
Right, right.
Right. Right. Right.
Only
I
That's a
get
good.
it.
That's a good deal. Yeah, that's a good deal.
because I wouldn't want to
Yeah.
divulge any information that he would not want to divulge.
Right,
Right.
right.
So let
So
me ask you this. Let me
I,
ask you this
I can talk about my relationship from my
from
stand.
your standpoint. Right.
Right.
So let me ask you this. You know, I always say this to be messing with you. Let's take you out the equation because see, we're talking in general.
Yeah.
When we do these shows, we can't always talk about how we feel and what we think. We need to bring some facts, statistics, and information in here. So you talking about being in love, and that's what marriage is supposed to be about. Do you think that's what's going on now?
Ask that again.
Do you think people get married for love now?
No, some do, some don't.
Okay. So
Some do.
that means you
When
don't.
he,
So that means
when
that's not
he
what
said,
marriage is really about then,
well,
because
what?
people are getting married for money. Who's got more money? Who can take care of them? You guys want to make sure that not so much financially, but someone that makes you secure. So there's certain things. Now you can. Now I know people that are in love with a man, but if he won't be able to take care of them and he don't make but $12 an hour, she might not want to marry that man. She in love with him, but she ain't gonna marry him.
Okay,
Then
so
don't forget
what
the
he said,
looks.
when you make it about finances, then you open the door for those same women that you guys are talking about who
Mhm.
say, I asked him for money for lunch and he only sent me $30. He need to be sending me $200.
No, we
Right.
didn't.
You open the door for women who are only
No,
about.
no, no. We didn't open up that door.
They were
That door
already
was
standing at
open
the door.
way before we got here. We're
They
just
were already
acknowledging
standing
the
at the
door.
door.
Okay, well, you're inviting them in.
No,
How
we're
we
not
inviting them
inviting
in?
them in. We're acknowledging the door. Yeah, I mean, that's just like if you see a stick in the road and everybody knows, I'm sorry, an elephant in the road, what, people gonna ignore it? No, you need to acknowledge the fact that there's a pink elephant in the road. So it's just acknowledging the fact of what it truly is. Love is one thing, okay? I don't believe in love. I believe in infatuation. And I don't really think that marriage and that love is all about marriage and marriage is all about love. It is two different things. If that's not the case, if that wasn't the case, then why are we paying out so much money when you get married? Why are you paying out so much money after you get a divorce? You know, I mean, it's economics. It has nothing to do with love. Nothing. I was married for 11 and a half years, and it was the worst 11 years of
Right
my
there,
life.
right there, right there. Do
Yeah.
you know think that the experience that you had has formulated your bias towards marriage?
No, because when I got married, and I'm gonna be honest with you, I got married for economical reasons because, you know, I wanted to build a huge, I wanted to build a legacy. And because the person that I was married to was also in the military also, and I was in, I was trying to build something and everything. It wasn't about just about love. Love can
Okay,
come anyway,
but
anytime.
you
Uh-huh.
just said that it should be for economical reasons. So
Right. It
you're
is for.
that just because you do it economically doesn't mean it's going to work.
No, it's not. It doesn't mean it's going to work. You're right.
And it doesn't also mean it's not going to necessarily
I
work if you
agree.
do it just for love.
It's
Exactly.
true. True.
Because I've seen people get married. We love will hold us through. Love will take us through
Yeah.
anything. And they're
Yeah.
both sitting there and are
Get it.
sleeping in the car together
Yeah.
because they
It's a
lost the house.
gamble. It's a
It's a
straight up
gamble.
gamble.
And I've
Yeah.
seen people come out of that too. Now I do believe two people that are in love and want to work together
Mhm.
can work out of that situation. Maybe finally get a 1-bedroom apartment and start over and
Start
be
over.
okay.
Yeah.
But I've seen people that don't have love for each other stick together for years due to
Exactly.
economic reasons. They were respectful, they got along with each other, and they did okay. But it wasn't necessarily love there. They were okay with it. Because you're gonna fall out of love with people. The person you marry, you're gonna fall out of love with them. Because
Yeah.
being there day after day after day, you're not always in love. Then you're doing it because you should be doing it then because it's duty. You swore to God, this is the person you're gonna marry, and you're gonna work with them, good, bad, or indifferent.
Yeah.
Now, 2 weeks from now, or a month from now, 6 months from now, you may feel differently. You back in love with that person because of
Yeah.
something that happened, or you guys just came to an understanding. But you're not gonna be in love with that person every single day. But you
Okay.
still gonna have to go through finances.
Saturation. Hmm.
I have had times where I might not like you at the moment,
Hmm.
but I still love you.
Yeah, I get
And
that.
what I say, and it's hard for me to understand how. And don't get me wrong, I've been there, but at the same time, I am, like I said, friends with all of my exes.
Hmm.
Because if I loved you at one point in time, how can I turn around and hate you now?
Oh, it's easy.
People
It's
do
No,
so
that every
easy.
day. See, you once again, you talk. I get that you're talking about you. Do you
Yeah.
think a lot of people do that?
I didn't say. Like I said I don't understand.
You don't
Yeah.
understand, and I
Don't
get
get me
it.
wrong. In the midst of any breakup, of course you ticked off, you pissed off, you hate this person. I
Yeah.
get it. But at the end of the day, what I did was I had to understand that me and this person made two other human beings.
Right.
And those two human beings needed both of us. So whether it benefited him and anybody else in the situation, it didn't matter to me as long as it benefited my children. And they get to see us at every event, every holiday. We get along, we laugh, we play games, and they then see that even though this didn't work, their
Hmm.
family is still intact.
Hmm. Hmm.
Well, now let me say it like this: the family is not intact, but the
Well,
family is working together.
same thing. Yes, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah, I know, but the reason why I said
Yeah.
that,
Working together.
make
Yeah.
sure to make that distinction, is
Yeah.
because they're not in the same home. They're not still, everybody's got things separately, but they can come together for special events. And I think we should all be able to work that way.
Well, I
You
mean,
know,
not even special events. We come together. I mean, we used to just do dinner in the middle of the week together, or movies.
right?
Every time there was especially Marvel movies or any kind of action movies, we're all action movie junkies, and they love like Star Wars and things. So that's our thing. Any new movie that comes out, we go as a family to see it. And me and
Hmm.
her dad, I mean, put it this way, I consider him a friend. Sometimes we
Hmm.
get along, sometimes we don't.
Hmm.
Right.
But we still managed to care about each other enough to be a family.
Look, I'm with you. I agree.
But
I
still,
agree. And I think that makes all the sense in the world. And I think that should be the case. There's just like saying there's only, you only got a few people like Oprah, Denzel. I'm not saying that because they got great relationships. I'm just saying there's only a few people like Denzel, Oprah, Fred Astaire, Michael Jordan. You got a few people. And then you got a few Ursulas. You got a few other people, women that think like you do. And you know, nope, you ain't got no one Ursula. So, but that's what I'm getting at. But what I'm getting at is you're gonna have people like you that it makes sense to do that. It's great. You got people that you've dated in the past and you guys get along. Pretty much anybody that I've dated in the past, I can still speak to and we get along. I made sure or try to have it where we weren't at each other's throat. My ex and I, we had that at each other's throat, or at least I was at hers, for certain reasons. And then I let that go. You know what? That's fine. And we moved on. But there are some with baby mamas and dads the same way. They cannot stand him. And he has done nothing different than he did when you met him.
Yeah.
He was out in the streets, enjoying the streets, playing around. You met him that way, and you thought he was going to change for you, and he didn't. And he wants to come see his baby or come spend some time with him or pick up his son. And because he don't want nothing to do with you, he can't see his son. That makes no sense.
I will say this, and to any mom or baby mama or whatever you want to call yourself out there, just because he was not a good husband,
or boyfriend, because 80% are not married.
Yeah, not a good boyfriend or parent, partner, or whatever you want to call him, does not mean he's not a good dad. You know if he's a good dad or not.
Well, some of them don't because they would not let him spend time with a child from day one.
Someone tried to be a dad and was blocked. I get that. And the only thing that you are hurting is that child.
Well, it kind of rounds up to a video that I saw earlier that made a lot of sense about what the subject is tonight when I listened to the lady. And it doesn't necessarily mean that it's Tobias's experience or anybody else on this panel. But the lady mentioned that the relationship, sometimes the mother keeps the child from the dad, or she resents the child because she really didn't want the child anyway. So she treats the child a certain way, and then they end up hating, having terrible relationships because of that.
Yeah.
So it strings it along. So when you're keeping your son or your daughter from the dad, and then when he turns 15, 16, and he gets to know his dad and realize everything you told me about my dad, that ain't even true. You said he never came around, but he's showing me text messages from 20 years ago or 15 years ago that he was calling me on the regular, or emails that he sent to you to meet with you. So now you're making him bitter.
Yeah.
So it's a circle. So until I read a little bit about the subject tonight, I didn't understand how somebody could hate their mother. I didn't understand that. Not saying I understand it completely, but the video that I watched, it was about 15 minutes. It made sense to me for me to go, I never looked at it from that standpoint. Now, I'm not saying, the guys on the panel that they have good reasons. They have good reasons to them. It might not make sense to me, but from what she was explaining, I can understand certain things. I didn't understand that certain women would be having relations with their son.
Yeah.
I didn't know that. And it makes them bitter. It makes the son bitter, where they can't stand their mother, or the mother is a narcissist.
Who grew up differently, it's hard for us to wrap our head around that.
Right.
When he first mentioned the subject, I was like, I can't even have a conversation because I can't even fathom that situation. But then
Right.
I get also there are piggybacking off of um, Michelle's interview that we did
Hmm.
about how even after everything, she kept trying to build this relationship with her mother, who was just as toxic as her stepfather was.
Yeah.
And she had to understand, I need to just cut it off completely and be done with it, because there's no good to come out of you being in my space.
Right.
So I totally understand it now, because I don't care have a if you have a father or a mother who physically or sexually abused you and never ever asked for forgiveness or changed or tried to make amends or admitted that what they were doing, if there was no kind of forgiveness in that situation, how can you ever have any love for that person?
Well, I'm gonna let Tobias speak on this, but let me just say this part. Something this lady said that I was like, I never thought about this. Now, like I said, everybody's different, so they have different situations. She made this comment. She said the first love that a young boy will ever have is his
Mm-hmm.
mother. Is the very first love. That's how he is going to learn how to love other women.
Mm-hmm.
It's from his mother. The relationship, the hugs, the kisses, um, helping with the band-aid when he falls, baby, come here, don't you do that. That's the love that you're supposed to have for your mother. But if she has never done that and did not give you that experience, you don't have the experience. So you don't know how to love. That you won't learn it, because it's just like when they say the most important years for a young man or a young lady is what, between the ages of 1 and 8 or one and
Yeah.
six,
Yeah.
is because that's when you learn everything that you really gonna learn, and the rest of it is just added onto it. So
Mm-hmm.
if you have a mom that has never shown love to you or spent time with you, you have nothing to pull from.
Yeah.
Exactly. So
So
that just it leads us into our topic tonight, which is men who hate their mothers and why.
and
And so,
why.
first and foremost, I'm gonna give the floor to Maurice, who everybody knows who Maurice is,
Hey, hey.
and we're hoping that Jabari is able to join soon. But he did have some obligations that he had with his sons tonight, so we understand.
Okay.
Um, so now we did have some questions. So first, Maurice, just kind of give us a background on who you are and how you came to fall under that topic.
Um, well, I grew up here in Greenville, North Carolina, except for about 3 years of living in Baltimore, and then coming back here to Greenville when I was about 8 years old. I was 8 years old, give or turn 9, and I grew up in a single parent household from the age of four, from 4 or 5 years old up, um, all the way through until even after I graduated. Um, there were three of us boys in the beginning, and then after 10 years after the third boy was born, she remarried and had two more babies after that. Um, two more boys after that. Um, I came to fall up under that umbrella, I would say, when I was about maybe about 9, 10 years old. when I started waking up, or I started, and it's because then you develop a fear. You're scared of her. You're scared to even see her. You're scared to go to sleep at night, because you're waiting for her to go to sleep so that you can go to sleep. Um, there are
Wow.
things that, yeah, it would be. There were things that she did that as a child I shouldn't have been that knowledgeable to know about, but she would do it. And if I said something about it, okay, I'm in the wrong for saying something about it. Um, the beatings were just a normal thing. I don't know if any of y'all ever seen that video or that movie, TV show, The Walking Dead, but there's one episode where this guy named Negan lines up everybody on the
Yes.
yeah,
Yes.
and then he beats the crap out of them with a baseball. Well, that happened to me when me and my brothers, we were woken up one morning and lined up on the bed with a Bible with a Bible in her hand, and like a whole tree on her nightstand, and the beatings came after that. So that didn't help me love religion anymore than that. So you
Right.
got to understand that the person that, and then when I became a teenager, right before I became a teenager, a preteen, I found out some stories about I found out something about myself from one of her sisters, and it changed my life. I found out that the man that I thought was my father was not my dad.
Mm.
But he's, to this day, I still call him dad. I still go see him because he to this day he's a great man. He was a great man when I was a kid. He was a great man now, and everything. So I still look at him as dad. And I went out and found my original father, and we had a great relationship. So the men were fine, but all of them said the common denominator was your mother. Now, I don't call her usually my mother. I call her um, the same thing, my egg donor, or the pit that I crawled out of. Um, there's so much hatred for her. It is an emotion, hatred, love. It is an emotion, and they belong to me, and they're mine. And I don't treat anyone worse than the other because each one helps me. Um, but my hatred for her has caused me to be at peace, to be finally be healthy, to have more knowledge and understanding of my own children, my own self, other people and their families and stuff like that. But yeah, any questions that y'all have, I'm more than happy to answer. I mean, she's a terrible to this day. She's a terrible person, and I can honestly say this. I didn't start this not talk. I haven't talked to her now since 2000, since the last day of 2019. The last day of 2019 was the last time I said one word to her. One word. She lives right here in Greenville. She's passed me and seen me, but I won't talk to her. I will walk right past her as if she doesn't exist. I don't care to ever have a conversation with her again. When it's her time to go, I'm not going. I don't have no issues with that. I'm at peace with that. My children, I don't discourage them from having a relationship with her because according to two of them, they had a great relationship. She's cool. She's grandma. She does this right. I'm like, well, that's cool. Well, why don't you? That's my business. And going back into why to start doing studies for years to find out why am I this way. Well, Shahrazad Ali, she basically gave me the info as to why I am this way with her. It started in the womb. It didn't just start outside. It started in her belly. Okay. For one, she didn't want me. She got, this was an unexpected pregnancy, and she was ashamed, which is what you hear. If you were me, you heard this all the time, that I was the shame. Okay. So I grew up with it just like, well, okay, I'm the Shane, you know. Maybe it's, you know, it goes like Shaft or something, but nah, you know, I just took it as it was. But it started in her womb with her not wanting to have me, her trying to get an abortion, her not having any contact with my real father, him not knowing that I even existed until I was 21 years old. What kind of crap is that? Um, Stories that surrounded, that for years, people just keeping stuff quiet, generational curses. You know, it started in the womb and it just kept right on going, just kept right on going. And she took it to levels even up until I was 49. At 49 years old, this terrible person continued. No matter how many times I would try to, no many times I tried to make things right. I would forgive, if there is such a word. I would let things go. I would try to be nice. I would be nice, or whatever the case may be. She didn't reciprocate. All she saw was, he messed up my life because he was born. He messed up my life because he's here. She can't blame herself. You know, she don't want to put the blame on herself. Well, that'd be wrong. You know, but I can put it on him. And so,
Let me ask you a question.
go ahead. Mhm.
Go back to, you said that she did this to you and your brothers.
Yeah.
Okay, how many brothers did you have that she was doing this to?
At first there were three, and then she did it to all five of us.
How
But
are their
the
relationships?
funny thing about them is okay, uh, they still hang around her. You know, I don't know if they're trying to get something when she dies or whatever, because she likes to hold. She used to like. She would hold this stuff over your head, like, yeah, when I go, I'm leaving this and I'm leaving that, and I would be like, I don't want it. I got my own thing. I don't need anything from you. I told the same thing to my dads. I don't need anything from you. I don't want anything. I want you to know that it's about, I care about you. It's about love. I don't want now. I don't want to be a materialistic thing. She couldn't see things that way. So those boys, they still hang around her. The three oldest boys after me, we don't talk. We don't have a relationship because of that. And I don't care. Now, the youngest one, we hang out, we talk, we have a good relationship. That those of the five that grew up underneath her, me and the youngest one have a great relationship. But the
Right.
three in between, no. And they were done just as dirty, but yet they
So
don't.
are you ill with them because they went through the same thing, but they don't have the resentment that you have?
No, it wasn't because of that, because that's something, again, your relationship your with whoever is your relationship with that individual. I don't come in between other folks in their relationships and everything like that. However, um, the problem came. You got to understand, this thing is like a disease. It's like a virus. When you treat one child like when you treat one child messing, and you treat you tell the other boys, you basically do the same thing with the other boys, where you're trying to keep the boys from having a close relationship. It spreads. I found out it's in the DNA, because my grandmother, I remember when I was a child, she used to talk about how her mother used to beat her every single day before she went to work, and would tell her, this is for what I don't catch you doing today.
Oh wow.
Okay. Yeah. So she
I,
used
I
to,
also wanted to go through that before.
oh my God, my
Just
grandmother.
out of the blue, sometimes they said just out of the blue, they would just look at them and they were like, "Come here, I know you done something today, and we'll get a whooping."
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
We'll get a whooping. And I've heard parents say this before too. Instead of apologizing when they found out that they whooped the child for something they did not do, they made the statement, "Well, this is for one of the things you got away with.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, instead of apologizing
Yeah.
for what they, you know, for making a mistake.
Yeah.
I was, Lord, I thought you did that. And I did not know. I'm so sorry. I'm wrong. Instead of saying that, what I'm getting at is who else in your family besides you that just do not get along with your mother, like her brothers, her
What?
sisters.
Yeah.
Well, when I was a child, there was a cousin that did not get along with his mom. He was all about his dad. And so the whole family basically shunned that cousin. And I was like you, Ursula. I couldn't understand at that time how a person could hate their mother. I just thought that that was just normal for her to treat you like that. So
Oh, you thought
I
it was
couldn't understand it. And so I was in that same mind frame because I just didn't understand. But I had a cousin, a first cousin that went through that. As far as my aunts and uncles, my mother's brothers and sisters, there was a uncle and a an aunt. The uncle did not get along with my grandmother, and the aunt, his younger sister, my mother's younger sister, she couldn't get along with her dad, with my grandfather. Um, I could understand why they couldn't get along with why the uncle couldn't get along with my grandmother because don't get me wrong, I love the lady, but she had issues. Uh, she would say things that didn't click until after she was long until she about 4 years after she had died. I was 20 years. It was stuff that she said that all of a sudden started clicking. Um, and I can remember it as if it was yesterday. And then there were things that people tell me now that they remember because now these folks are gone. But these folks who were there that remember, they tell me stories about what went down back there, and it was like, well, this is how she was. This is what she was about. Me and we'd
so
be together now if it wasn't for your grandma. Yeah, it's stuff like that. So it's generational.
so
Um,
the question I have is,
mhm.
seems like your family had a history of one of the other mothers or fathers not being the normal mother or father that most kids would have, and it kind
Or
of
not.
more or less trickled down.
Mhm.
Huh?
No,
Say
no,
again.
you're right. Go ahead.
Yeah.
What you say, Houston?
No, no, no. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, I'm saying it's no, just saying it's like it seems like just listening to you talk, there was some level of your
Dysfunction.
mother, what yeah, just the dysfunction there, and then other parts of the family had the dysfunction with her mother, and then another male had a dysfunction with parts of his family. So it was kind of like, and I think it's like the domino effect.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think it happens in a lot of families. They just don't see it, or
Yeah.
there's a fear to go against your mom and dad because everybody throws those scriptures out there about obey your parents so you can live long upon the earth and all this other jive. But my thing is that I think most people forget, and I try not to I I try not to forget, but is that yeah, women are human. Okay, they're human beings, and there are things that they don't like. They're different species from men altogether,
Mhm.
but there are things that they like and things that they don't like. There are things that they're over emotional rather than logical, and they think on things that most folks be like, well, you overthinking this, or you overdoing this, or whatever the case may be. And sometimes the kids can get hit with. I've said this before that the first relationship between the kids and the parents starts with the mom and the child. Why? Because dad does not carry that child for 9 months. She does. So for the first 9 months, that's the first relationship.
True.
The father has to learn that relationship after the fact, and the child got to learn that too. The only cool, good things that come out of that is, one, when the baby's born, it looks like the dad, and two, the first words that come out of the baby's mouth is dad dad, even if there is no dad dad
Right.
around. So it's easier to form the dad dad word.
Right.
But but
You, you
the
die with
first relationship is between mom and the child. And if her relationship is sour, she's gonna produce that. And that child is gonna feel what she feels. He's gonna carry that with him. And then if she does that to that child after the fact, outside, then yeah, that anger and that hatred's gonna be there, and it's gonna manifest itself in ways that, and other people gonna look at me like, how is this even possible? Those who have what we call normal relationships between uh, uh, moms and what we call normal relationship with moms and sons, or moms and daughters, and everything. I mean, that's just the way it is. But we're all human.
well, I will say, which is why, and I'm gonna quote some Tyler Perry for a second.
Hmm.
One of his plays, when he says in the Bible they don't use the word sex, they use the word, they didn't, she had never known a man,
Hmm.
and which goes now, you out here having sex with people that you don't even know. You need to get to know someone, because that person is then tied to you, whether you want to believe it or not, for the longevity of your life, because you're going to share a child together.
Right.
And that,
Right.
that common denominator is that child, and the child doesn't stop at 18.
Nope.
And so when I was pregnant, it was like I would, I talked to my kid, before he was even here, and so honestly, we had a bond from the very beginning. Um, and the same with my daughter.
Hmm.
But with their dad, it was like they did, she gravitated towards her dad's voice when he came in the room.
Right.
I'd have been with you all day long.
But
And he
there's a little more bass in the voice. It
Yeah.
just trembles.
It's a
It
little more
trembles.
bass.
It does something. Yeah. It's an
Yeah.
octave
The
or
difference.
range that it just is different.
It's saturation, really. I said that before. If you saturate it with something for a long period of time, something new coming in there, you're gonna gravitate to that, because you already dealt with this all day. That's why you got. How about when the baby's just irritable all day long with that one parent, but as soon as that other parent comes in, they ready to go to that. Trust me, it happens with fathers too. My daughter, my oldest daughter, I would have her, you know, all day long. Her mom would be at work. I'd have her all day long, playing with her, taking her out, doing everything from the time she was an infant all the way up until she was 4 years old. That was our life. But as soon as her mom would come through the door after dealing with me and having a good time with me and singing all the songs about daddy and all this stuff and everything, as soon as her mom come up in there, she's arms all out because she wants mommy and everything.
Right.
So it goes both ways. I can totally understand that.
I think when you deal with the relationship where there's a lacking of, especially maternal love,
Yeah.
I think, and this may sound, I'm not trying to sound aloof, but the absence of motherly love to me
Mhm.
is more detrimental mentally than the absence of fatherly love. And I
That,
say
that, that,
that
that,
because
yeah, yeah.
I say that because not because it's not, a father love is not important. I think all children should have a father in their life. Period.
Right.
But like you said, that first love that you know is the person that gave birth to you.
Right.
And so when that part is missing, it's very hard for you to develop, learn how to develop the love, like Houston said earlier, develop the love for anybody else.
Hmm.
Not saying that you cannot,
But it's hard.
but it's hard.
Right.
And so, my husband told, when we were together, and he would say that we had two totally different upbringings,
Hmm.
you know. And so when he came here, he saw, because he couldn't remember his parents being together.
Hmm.
He knew his father, but he left when he was young.
Hmm.
And so when he came here and he saw my mom and my dad, it was the first time really that he can remember saying dad.
Hmm.
Because once we got married, he, to this day, he calls my parents mom and dad.
Hmm.
Yeah.
And I think even though, we're not together, the love that they showed him was outside of the marriage that we had.
Right.
Hmm.
Right.
And so now it's like, that's my mom and that's my dad.
Hmm.
Right.
I can't get rid of you. Like,
Right.
seriously, but
Hmm.
that just goes to show you, anytime, and my cousin Deborah, you
Yeah.
Right. Right.
with their church,
Hmm.
Deborah and BT Walston were like his adoptive mom and dad when he first moved here.
Right. Right.
Hmm.
She actually sat in for his mom at our wedding.
Right.
So he got to feel that love,
Hmm.
not, he didn't have it growing up from his mom, but
Hmm.
he didn't have that parent, that parent together, that mom and dad together kind of love.
Hmm.
Where
And
mom gave him the love and dad gave him the discipline.
Hmm. Right.
So, and I think when a child is missing that kind of love, it's hard.
Oh yeah.
It's
it's
very
Oh yeah.
hard.
extreme.
Oh
It's
yeah.
extreme.
I mean, it was really it was hard for me growing up um with her around. I would go to older cousins or I would go to my aunts um most times just to get away from her. And then when I had relatives that were leaving, that were leaving the area, that's when I knew darkness was coming. I mean, Mommy Dearest was gonna rear her ugly head, and um, she would. I knew like for example, the relatives would come down during the holidays, and we have a whole lot of them that their fathers were and mothers were military or whatever. They would come to Greenville, and we were the only ones still out of the whole clan still living in Greenville. There's 12 different clans, and we're the only ones from the ninth kid living in Greenville, growing up like they did. And that was such a mess. I mean, it irritated me because I didn't feel like uh, not to be little, but I felt I was better than that. I mean, and
Yeah,
it was only because we lived in Baltimore for uh, so long. I had had a taste of the city, and I was aware,
yeah,
of what was going on. Plus, my education level was up there, and I come down here now. It's a totally different beast.
yeah.
But when my cousins would come around for the holidays, we all have a good time, and I didn't have to go around her. Her attention wasn't on me because she was too busy trying to uh, 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 put up a front in front of her brothers and sisters to make it
Right.
seem like she was a big thing. But
Uh,
when they left, the day that they would drive off, when they would leave McDowell Street, heading down Battle and Bancroft to go to places like Maryland or New Jersey or California, wherever they came from.
She would flip back to who she really was.
Oh, Mama Dearest, she no wire hangers. She would at night. She would flip. She would completely lose it for some reason. Her anger, her
I
when
never.
she would beat me. I'll give you an example. When she would beat me, one time I had the uh, um, one time I had the unfortunate the unfortunate time of looking her in the eyes while she beat me, and her eyes were blank. They were completely blank.
So I was going to bring this up with that. Do you think there was some bipolar or there were some mental issues there?
Almost definitely, there was definitely mental issues with her. For someone that graduated as a valedictorian from EPS, uh, she came out of there a complete yeah. There's bipolar there, and to this day it's still there. You know, the sad part about it is it's still there based off of stories that my younger brother and his wife tell me. You know, from time to time when we get together, you know, they'll tell me stuff that's going on out and about, and I see it in my some of my younger brother and two of my brothers. I see, well, actually three of them. I see that same mentality and everything. I see it in, sad to say, I see it in two of my daughters.
So
They have her mentality, and there's nothing I can do about it. I could sit there and I was with the oldest one for the longest. I spent lots of time with my children, but then when you deal with them and you see how they are, and you see that, and I'm it's sad, you know, for me to see them that way, and it hurts, but there's nothing I can do about it. So all I can do really is just, um, you know, when I see them, you know, just be dad, you know, hey, how you doing? And they talk to me and act to me just like that witch does. And I let them do that for the time, but I don't let them in my home. I don't let them come around me all the time. We'll talk on the phone. And if we talk on the phone for a few minutes, that's fine. But that's as far as it gets
do you
because, mhm,
go ahead? Go ahead and
go
finish.
ahead. Yeah, that's as far as it gets because I see that attitude of theirs. I've seen it before and everything. Now, the two youngest daughters, I don't get that from them.
Hmm.
But the two oldest ones, yeah, I get it from them.
Ursula, you go ahead, but I have a question too.
Hmm.
Because you now know that there was probably some mental issues,
Hmm.
you think that being able to address those issues and become better would allow for some kind of communication between the two, or are you just completely done?
Well, it's kind of like that's her, that's who and what she is. You know, it's her nature. You know,
Okay,
it's just like a lion or a tiger. You can have a lion or tiger from cub and train them any way you want in the cage and whatnot. But one day, you know, is that one day that their instinct or their nature kicks in and they will kill you. Okay.
got
So you can probably talk to her or send her to where she needs to, or even, you know, give her the information, you know, or you know, and in a nice way, which it has been done. But her nature, that's just who she is. That's just her nature. You got a lot of mothers that are like that. Their nature is just like that. And not just in my family. I've seen it in other families. I've seen it. And then you could watch this, not just in this country, but around the world. And you just like, all you can do is just sit there. It's like, well, wow, you know. So yeah, you could talk to them about getting help, and it would be nice if they got help. But they have to want to get the help after you tell them, you
and they
know,
have
or tell them what you're going through.
they have to they have to they have to acknowledge that that in some aspect they are wrong.
Exactly.
Let me ask you a couple of questions.
Mm-hmm.
You know, playing devil's advocate for one. Um, you mentioned how you see it in your brothers.
Mm-hmm.
You know, in a couple of your brothers, you see how you see it in your daughters, but you feel like it skipped you.
Yeah.
Do you feel like any of that is part of who you are? Because you said earlier how the anger and the hate, you didn't use the word feed you, but you said that is who you are and it
Yeah.
helps you and it helps you.
Hmm.
You
Yeah.
know, so when you use anger to that's helping you, have you talked to anyone? Have you gone to counseling to deal with these issues?
Yes. Anger does not have to be aimed at someone else. Anger can be used towards you to get you to wake up. Sometimes you have to be mad at yourself to make yourself do what needs to be done. I mean, it's a struggle sometimes to get out of bed when you just rather just stay there all day and you got to go to work. But you have to tell yourself, get up, Reese. You know what I'm saying? It's time for you to get up. Do not just hit that alarm clock, get up and go to work. Go work out, Maurice. Eat your vegetables, Reese. You can't, it's not just to be aimed at someone. Sometimes you have to aim it at yourself, because sometimes if you don't follow your own understanding, okay, you'll find yourself in a bad situation. And then who you gonna be mad at? The only person you can be mad at is yourself, because you allowed this to happen. That madness, that anger, can make you remember what you need to do so you don't fall into that situation again. And that's how I use my anger in anything, for that matter. It's an emotion. It's an emotion. It's just who and what we have. It is the only thing that we own other than the nakedness of our body. So, with those emotions, I keep them, but there's nothing wrong with keeping them in check. You can control that and everything. You just have to, set your mind to it. But if you listen to the propaganda outside trying to tell you, how to, and it's good to go out and talk to us, like talk to people. Like what we're doing now to me is therapy. Okay. Having this discussion, talking to people outside, we're sharing, what we are and ideas. And we're seeing that a lot now in the world, where people are sharing their issues and things that are going on. They should share it instead of keeping it in, because the more you keep it in, you're like that pot that doesn't have a pressure valve. And if that happens, what happens? It explodes. So yeah, you should be able to talk with any and everybody, but also it's best to also talk to yourself and control yourself. That's the first step. And you have to people know when something ain't right with them. They know it. They just have to find a way to get through it. And when you got folks that people say, oh, he got the devil in him, or he's something's wrong with, he's got mental issues, or she got mental issues inside, they probably are just as sane as all get out. It's just that they can't get that sanity out and everything. And that's when you need professionals to sit down and try to help them and to talk with them. Case in point, Helen Keller. She was a very sane person, very smart and intelligent young woman, but she couldn't hear and she couldn't see. That's terrible. How you get stuff out with that? All you got is your hands to feel around. And it took a woman, her teacher, to basically show her how to use the senses in her hands to deal with what she could not use. So I don't think, I think people deep down inside, know what's up. They just choose, some people just choose to be evil, to take it to a whole new level.
I got
True.
you. But I don't know if you answered the question.
Mm-hmm.
Have you thought about therapy yourself, or have you gone through therapy or going through therapy?
I thought I answered that. Yeah, I have. I do therapy. And again,
Okay.
I'll say it again. What we're doing is therapy. Okay.
Right. I caught that part. Yeah, I caught
Yeah,
that
I
part.
I
I was just making
I go
sure.
to the VA. Don't get me wrong. I'm PTSD, so I go to the VA, and I've got 2 therapists, plus I do a VA group and everything.
Right.
So I sit down with a VA group. I talk to 2 therapists. I do this,
Right.
and anybody else that I sit down and I have conversations with out, to me that is also therapy.
I get it. I get it.
Mhm.
And that's why I was asking that, is because I could hear, I have a better understanding now.
Mhm.
Because like when you first mentioned it and brought it up to my, oh, that's just my egg donut, and I can't stand my mama that she only called it that. I couldn't understand that because all I could hear was the anger,
Yeah.
but I didn't know the story behind the anger. To what kind of got you to that point.
Yeah.
So it makes a difference in understanding, and that's something hard to go through by yourself, or just say, as I grow up, hey, I can't stand it, I ain't gonna be around it, and I'm fine. And that's how, and when you said your relationship with your daughters, the whole nine, I'm like, sound like it's that generational thing still carrying on because of the relationship that you have with your mom and the anger that's built up. You told us about how you wanted your daughters to do certain things and they didn't want to do it that way, and it just caused a mess.
Well, you also got to add their mothers. Their mothers also have issues. Uh, Two of them that they didn't have issues with their mothers, but they had issues with their dads. Both my children's mothers, they had major issues with their fathers. I never saw anything wrong with their dads. I never saw anything wrong with their moms either. But they just did. They had issues with their fathers, and but speaking of me, and I'll tell you a story. There was a little girl that lived across the street. A little girl that lived across. We about the same age. That was living across the street, and she was being molested during that time frame. And there was another girl that we went to school with there, D.H. Conley, who she was also friends with that girl. She wanted to go over there and say hello to her. But my egg donor, who knew what was going on over there across the street. Now the kids, we didn't know what was going on, but that woman knew what was going on across the street. And she told that girl who was getting ready to go over there, says, no, 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 don't go over there because her daddy ain't home. I mean, her mama ain't home and everything. It says, okay, but she's, me and her friend, don't go over there because her mama ain't home. So she knew what was going on over there, but she never bothered to do anything about it. And not even a phone call or anything. She knew what was happening, and she didn't bother to intervene. But then again, it's no surprise because, well, she was allowing craziness to go on in our own home and everything. I mean, I'm talking about an individual that marries her own cousin and marries her own cousin, a jailbird. Um, it was terrible growing up there. I couldn't wait. I graduated when I grad 4 days after I graduated from DH Conley. I left for the military um, because I got tired of taking care of kids that weren't mine. Okay, I did not make these children. I didn't make my brothers. Okay, I didn't ask for that responsibility. I was made to work from the age of 13 until I left home. And I was made to pay the electricity. I was made to pay the water bill. I was made to pay the house note and everything, or at least half of it. And when I had money, half of my paychecks, and I worked 3 jobs. If y'all knew me back then, I worked 3 jobs. I drove a school bus for 2 of those years, my junior, senior year. I worked at the mall, and I worked at a Chinese restaurant that was over there at the corner of Dickinson and Memorial Drive. Half my paychecks went to her in that house and no boys. The child support money that dad, who by the way, he was my stepfather. All right. He was not my biological dad. He was my stepfather, but he made sure that the money came in every 2 weeks. Him and his wife made sure that the money was coming in for us 3 boys. But she would not let me having that money. Couldn't eat the food in the house. I couldn't eat the food that was in the house where I grew up at. I had to find other means to eat and everything. This is from 13 up until I graduated from high school. That's what she did.
And the strange
Okay.
thing about this whole situation, and like I tell my kids this all the time, you never know what another kid is going through at home.
Yep.
Right, right. That's true.
That's
Oh yeah.
a kind word to any kid, you know. And my son, when he was in middle school, I was elementary school, and he saw a kid who didn't have any lunch,
Mhm.
and I actually brought him lunch one day, but he had packed a lunch for school,
Mhm.
and he asked me, could he share? Could he give him that lunch?
Mhm.
Now that kid ended up becoming a good friend of his later on, all because he saw a need in that kid that he met. You know what I'm saying? So
Mhm.
when these kids and I love people, the kids these days, they tease kids about what they wear, the kind of shoes they have, the kind of phone they have, what they drive, all kind of superficial things, And I went to pick my daughter up from school one day, and there was a young boy, a white boy, and he had his lunch. He had pizza, juice, and something else. And the great hall was full of kids, and he came straight from the cafeteria, and he came and sat directly in front of the glass door for the building, like the front doors. He just sat down on the floor. He propped up his iPad and started eating. But the loneliness that was over his head was deafening. Like, you could tell he had no friends.
Mhm.
And there were people in groups of conversation around him, but you could just see him, just the space that he took up was so small, but the loneliness kind of just filled that whole area, you know.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Pointed to my daughter, and when she came out and I pointed to her, I'm like, remember when I was telling you about a kind word will always help somebody?
Mhm.
I said, now he could have been perfectly fine. You know what I'm saying? He could have been, just wanted to be by himself for a minute, and he
Right.
got plenty. I said, but just seeing a kid like that and saying hi,
Yeah.
hey, how you doing, could mean the difference between that kid just having somebody to show them that they exist, you know. And so what bothers me, and I told you about that when we was in interviewing Michelle Harris.
Mhm.
I saw her daily. I saw Maurice daily.
Mhm.
We had ROTC together, and I had to inspect uniforms and when we had dress out days and things like that. And I never knew, because of the persona that he had. He was always, him and his clique was together, and they were always laughing and having a good time. So you assume that everybody's living the same life that you live in.
Mhm.
Right.
And it baffles me now how superficial we were back in the day,
Mhm.
that we were so ignorant that we thought that everybody's life was the same.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Curve, and I gotta tell you, at AG Cox, when I got sent to AG Cox in the half of my fifth grade year, I was lucky enough to have a older stepbrother. I had a stepbrother that was there, and we were both in the same grade. So I was lucky enough to have him there, as well as I had already knew Tootie uh,
Mm-hmm.
back then. But the guys that I ended up hanging out with, that you ended up seeing me with at Conley, those guys and their parents really looked out for me. They were right there. Now the kids on the outside, there were kids um, that were pretty much jerks. They didn't know us, but they had good parents. But they would, and they had it going on. They had a good life, and older brothers and sisters. They had the Cosby life, if you will. But they would pick on you for the clothes you wore, or they picked on you because, well, you ain't got no daddy, or y'all drive a raggedy car, or whatever the case may be, or you too short, or you too yellow. How come you light skinned and how come you yellow and your brother's a dog? How y'all brothers? It was stuff like that we would get from people that had their entire families together. The sad part of, I guess, I don't know if you want to call it sad, but the one thing about it is those Lord, I'm about to curse on the show, but those same guys, those same guys, uh, those same guys that used to pick on me and my younger brothers and everything because of that didn't understand what was going on. behind closed doors that treat me out. I could tell you, one of them, at least, well, some of them are dead.
Yeah.
And I know of one that's paralyzed, you
Mhm.
know, from the, you know, they've had bad lives. They've had nothing but, you know, bad stuff and everything. And they had good parents. They had people that looked out for them and they got all the good stuff and all that. But, yeah, you know, what goes around.
Comes around.
And I found that you know, even though I was getting the bad end of, I felt that I was getting the bad end of the stick in this life. You know, why put that on other people? You know what I'm saying? So I would treat them the way I wanted to be treated until they cross me. Now, when you cross, then yeah, you got to stick across the head, or something happened, you know. But that's only for protection of myself. But yeah, the hatred that the anger and the hatred that I have for my egg donor is real, and I understand a lot of people that have that, and I can't judge them, especially when you start hearing their stories, and then you're like, I feel you. I I feel you. You know, I don't even know what to even tell you to fix it, because that's just that's the person that they are. They see you as this, and they'll never see you as anything else but this.
Right.
So there's no need to waste your time with them. You know what I mean? I mean, after a while, you know, after all the beatings that you get from them, and the put downs, and the respect that you don't get from them, and then the recognition that you don't, you know, I'm the first to and the only to graduate from college out of that genetic line there, that
Mhm.
clan, if you will. You know, um I had sent out the invitations, of course, for my graduation. This was back in 2000. This was back in 2006. Okay. And I was told, well, you have a cousin that's getting married the same day that you are graduating from college. And I was like, yeah, I know. Now, but you got the invitation. So, you know, you're going to be there? Well, I really want to go to the wedding. Okay. I said, oh, okay. All right. Well, hey, you know, do what you feel you need to do. You know, if you're going to go to the wedding, go to the wedding. And so, come find out, not only did she not come, but the um the brothers didn't come. There was only two people at my graduation, but two and a half. I say two and a half. My oldest daughter, my oldest daughter was there for the graduation. Um, my her younger sister was still in her mother's womb at that time, and her mother was graduating the same day I was. We both graduating together.
Oh, wow.
So yeah, so she Morgan was in her belly going up the you know, there, and my stepmother, my dad's wife, was there.
Oh, wow.
Nobody else uh, came. Um, whether it was the military or my high school graduation, didn't come. Um, you know, you got to look at it like this. I just had to realize one day, and it took me to the age of 49 to just say, hey, you ain't got to deal with this no more. You don't need to apologize for
Yep.
nothing. You don't need to go
Right.
see them. You don't need to go around them. Just keep your distance, and do your thing, and quit stressing yourself, because you know that stress is gonna kill you. So I went and started doing my own thing. And again, I don't tell my kids not to go see their grandmother or anything like that. I don't do that. But they know now that, hey, look, he ain't gonna do it, so leave it alone. So
I've got to admit, like
Now,
I said, so, go ahead.
go ahead?
No, no, I was finished. Go
Go
ahead,
ahead.
Eartha.
No, I was just thinking, do you think that, I mean, because she has a great relationship with the grandkids.
Mm-hmm.
Was the disconnect between you guys because of your dad,
No, the
or
disconnect
just
was
because of who she was?
she was ashamed. Okay, so she grew up a Cosby kid. And when I say a Cosby kid, you know what that means. You grew up in a nice home. You know, your mom was there from sun up to sundown at the house. So you had a mama when, you know, your mom, the mother, she was a house
Yeah.
engineer, if you will. Your dad worked and he came home. In her
Okay.
case, she had older brothers and sisters. Heck, some of her oldest brother, he was already in the Air Force and married, you know, and married at that time. I think he had already had he had his first child in 1955. And so my mother was born in 48. Yeah. So my uncle had his first child in 1955. She born in 48. So that tells you about the other brothers and sisters that came after the oldest boy that were before her. So she grew up around older brothers and sisters and in a neighborhood that at the time was considered the black elite. Because you remember the black elite lived up there on the hill, up there on McDowell Street, like Johnny Wooten. Who doesn't know who Johnny Wooten is? Everybody know who Johnny Wooten
Yeah.
is. She, uh, they grew up, they lived and grew up right beside the man. Okay, Miss Harris, the school teacher across the street, the Gorhams. Who doesn't know the Gorhams?
Right.
Lucille Gorham, all of that. Who doesn't know the Gorhams? Who doesn't
Yeah.
know the Hembys? Not to mention,
Yep.
you know, our family are the Blunts, the Hembys, any Hemby. If you know who, what was it? Calvary, Mount Calvary over there on Talga, Arthur's Chapel in Bell Arthur. If you know all these churches and everything,
Yeah.
from there to Pat Tolis and Simpson, all that, who was founded by people like Bishop Sam Hemby. You know, these are her uncles or great uncles. These are big names running around Greenville. So she grew up, you know, around family members living large, getting what she wanted.
This
Um,
is your mother. This is your.
yeah, this is the egg donor. And when she graduated as valedictorian from Epps High School, but when she graduated, she just went completely wild doing what she wanted to do. It's the 60s, so you know, people gonna do what they do. But she gets pregnant. She gets pregnant. Now it's pure shame, and she needs to aim that shame somewhere. So where does she throw it at me? Now today she has friends that will say that I'm crazy, I'm wrong, and some of her sisters and brothers think I'm crazy, but they don't want anything to do with me. And I'm like, hey man, but y'all the ones that told me these stories. Y'all the one that tells me that some of the stuff that goes on. So I just throw my hands up in the air, but deep down inside they know and
Right.
everything. And
Right.
but I tell these, I put this information out there for one reason and one reason only, to let other people know you're not alone. Okay, you're not alone in this. If your mom beat you all the time for no reason, or embarrassed you, called you names, belittled you, didn't give you hugs when you needed them, didn't want you to touch her, didn't want you, made you work from as a child up, taking care of her, what she considered mistakes. There's
Right.
nothing wrong with you. It was never anything wrong with you. It was her. It started in the womb. And when it starts there, ain't but one person at fault for that, and that's her. It ain't dad's fault.
Right.
You know, it ain't his fault. He ain't carrying this kid for 9 months. She is. And she's supposed to be the nurturer. You know, keeping it real, the mother is supposed to be the nurturer, and the father is goal oriented.
Well, you know what? The thing that I find so interesting, um, so we can wrap this thing up. I I totally get. I get it. I totally get it now. It makes a lot more sense. Um, and I can see now, like you said, how someone can kind of go through that. The thing that I hate the most is I can absolutely see how it can change a person.
Yeah.
I absolutely see how this did not help at all with any religious background that you would want to have because of your upbringing.
Mm-hmm.
And this is from me being a Christian side. And I can see how the devil has exactly done what he wanted to do to destroy a generation of people.
Mm-hmm.
It's because when that was cut and she was whooping you guys and beating you guys and had the Bible in her hand, and you said she would take y'all to church on a regular basis or something like that.
We went to church every day. I couldn't even get homework done. And she would, not only could I not get my homework done, we get home late at night, I will go to her and be like, I need to get this homework done. Well, you should have done it before we went to church. I said, but when we got home, you told us to get dressed to go to church. Well, you wake up early in the morning and you figure it out. It was always you figure it out. You
Right.
figure it out. You do it. So,
But
of course, that caused problems in school.
right. But that's what I'm
And
getting
then
at.
you
That's
get a
what I'm getting at.
beating. You get a beating if the teacher called your house and said you didn't do your homework
Didn't do your
or you
homework.
ended up with bad grades. And and
Yeah.
and and my son went through the same thing with his mother. She did the same thing to him, dragging him to church. But you got to understand, this stuff is in the Bible also. You think of what the women did, from the Garden of Eden, from Sarah playing games with her handmaiden, making her sleep with her husband and everything, so that here comes a baby. And then when Sarah finally gets a baby, she now wants to kick that baby out, the only world he's ever known. Now he and his mama kicked out into a wilderness. What does that say about a mother?
Right.
So you got to look at these examples that these folks have been getting for years. Examples that say this is not what to do. But instead, they're choosing the example of what they want. Oh, Sarah was a good woman because she did everything for her family. No, she didn't do everything for her family. Neither did Rachel. She didn't do what she was supposed to go play games with Jacob and Esau. No, I'm sorry, Rebecca. Rebecca gonna play games with Jacob and Esau. Is supposed to go to Esau, but she gonna make Jacob be like Esau, and then because the daddy was blind. Look at all the games that are being played. That's in your Bible.
So, and that's what I'm getting at. I can see how it has destroyed certain parts, but then I'll sit here and listen. This Bible inside
Oh
and out.
yeah, oh yeah. I wouldn't be able to
This
talk
Bible
about.
inside and out. So, and I can see how it can be changed because she drugged you to church the whole nine, but you still got the word in you. So I hear it when you start telling these stories, but you see it from a different perspective now. So what I would like to say is hopefully, in time that the peace that you need, and not saying that you don't have it now, but I can still see some of the anger from, the things that's happened, which makes sense. But that peace will be there at some point because you're quoting stuff. You're quoting stuff that people need to hear. You may see it differently, but if she didn't make those sometimes, now I don't know it well enough, but if they didn't write it in the Bible and these mistakes she made, it also caused other chain reactions that turned out for the good. The same way that it has done with your mother or your egg donor, as you call it. I think at the end of the story, it's going to be turned for your good, and it has. And by you telling this story, and that's not even really want to do this tonight, it'll open the door for someone else.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm praying for, is that you just sat there and named 3 women off the top of your head and stories about them that lets me know the thing is what needs to be planted in you is in you, but this whole thing of what happened in your past is not holding you back, but it's a stick, it's a stigma, it's something that is there. So I see it.
I will say, sorry, I got kicked out for whatever reason.
We're gonna wrap this thing up.
But I will say this, and Houston, you said it, you just said it, and I've been thinking this the whole time, even before the show. But he has the word and the knowledge all up here.
Yep.
The thing that I feel is that the seed was planted, but it was planted on unfertile ground, so to speak.
Right.
Your mother did not plant that seed on fertile ground for it to grow, and she didn't nurture what she was trying to put in you. She, in total opposite, because of the way she treated you, I think it, and she treated you that way while still trying to manifest herself as a Christian.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
But you know, we see that a lot too. But go ahead.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because people.
She got kicked out again.
She got kicked out again.
Yeah. We're gonna wrap this up, but you know, I know what she's saying.
Yeah.
The way your mom did it was completely wrong. She was taking you to church, but then come home and beat you guys. That makes no sense.
Exactly.
But you know what? We see this all the time in churches.
Yeah.
Where the pastor is saving folks and people come to church and getting saved, but he's sleeping with someone in the church has got a baby or two in the church.
Yeah.
Or these priests that are sleeping with little boys.
Yeah.
You know, so the devil is all up in there, but God is still throwing that word out. You know what I'm saying? He still he planted the seed, but the way that it was planted, you know, we know it's fertilizer, but all you got was the dookie part of it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. With anything that I learn, anything that I read or stuff like that, you know, it's so that I can relate to people that actually will use that. You know what I'm saying? Like most times I'll talk to people about certain things, you know, they'll bring religion into it. Well, most times I try to beat them to the punch and be like, well, yeah, but this is what it would say, you know, in your religion. Even if if you're Muslim, I'm going to quote your Quran to you. You know, if you're Buddhist, I'm gonna quote your Buddhism to you. If you're a history or a scientist or whatever, I'm gonna quote these things for you. I mean, I could tell you, do unto others as you had them do unto you. Okay, but another way of saying that scientifically is for every action there's an equal reaction to that. Okay, or opposite reaction. For street, if you only talking street, I could talk street to you and give you that same message. You mess with me, I'm gonna mess with you. You know what I'm saying? You know, to be able to come at individuals in the same with their stuff. And I'll be honest with you, you know, growing up, I made sure that I understood, especially in my 20s, I understood the Bible and Christianity and everything. Because I began to notice, like you said, preachers were and people were using it towards their own benefit. You know, they were flip flopping the scriptures, especially when you hear it in school about when we were young. You hear about, oh, they say obey your masters and stuff like that. But see, you're talking about the English language.
Right.
If you go overseas and you get the actual blatant wording of what they're telling you to do or how to be, it's basically like, for example, children obey your parents, you know, so you can live long on the earth, right? Get this. If your parents, that doesn't mean obey your parents even when they're wrong. If your parents are coming out here telling you, hey, when you go to school, here's what you need to do now. You do what I tell you now. When you get to school, you go up there to little Sally, and then you kiss her on the lips and grab her on the booty and everything. Now you do what I tell you and everything. That's not what that means.
Right.
If your parents tell you don't stick your finger in the electric socket, okay? Don't stick your finger in the electric socket, because then you'll live. Okay. Because then you start wondering, well, if children obey your parents, children obey your parents. Well, what about the babies that are being aborted? What about babies? What about the two boys that were placed in a vehicle and their mama pushed that car into a lake? Why? Because she wanted to get with the other dude.
Right.
Come on,
Look,
man.
I get it. I totally get it. We're gonna have to definitely touch bases on this stuff again, because it opened a lot of doors, opened a lot of thoughts. You know, got me thinking about some things as well. You know, so Ursula, I'm gonna let you shut this thing down before you get kicked out again.
What I said was, I think that these fake Christians that we have out here are diverting potential world-changing Christians
Mhm.
who have
Yeah.
the mindset to do in this world what needs to be done, from manifesting their destiny.
Mhm.
Because they like you say, they're planting that seed on shallow ground, and it's not growing, it's not becoming anything. But
Right.
I keep getting kicked out. I don't
Yep.
know. But
Yeah, I'm about to
anyway,
say you better wrap it up before you get kicked out again now.
I really appreciate you sharing your story with us. It does give us a new perspective, and I think it's something that we need to dive a little deeper into, maybe with some more people, bring some more people
Right.
on
Yeah.
dialogue.
Right.
Because like I said, me and Houston, we really couldn't wrap our heads around it. He a mama boy. He's a
I
mama
don't know
boy.
who you're talking about.
But
Just because I love my mama, I mean, that don't make me no mama boy. But go ahead.
but I think that your story kind of shines some light to us about there are people in this world that didn't live like we lived, that
Right.
we need to, embrace their struggles and their story, and bring everybody together so that we can understand and hopefully not could stop it from happening in the future. Pretty much.
Sounds good. Sounds good.
So, but we can go ahead and wrap it up. Thank you so much, Maurice, for sharing your story.
Yep.
Houston, look forward to seeing you this weekend. We're gonna get some good information. And until next week, you guys, keep it 100.
Yeah.